Okay, so this will be a good one. The habits of trust. How about if we call that one there? How does David do this in his personal life? But just looking at your habits overall. Though I got to say, you talked in the first one. I often ask about exercise, health, nutrition, and you told a quick story of 50 pounds in 5 months. Did I get that right?
That's about right. I think
That's
52 at the end of the day, but we won't worry about those two.
that's significant. You know what? So let me ask first off, how do those 50 pounds get there to begin with?
Well, first of all, let me say that what's most amazing about that is keeping them. That was in 2011, so 10 years to keep
Ah,
them off. Because you look at everybody on Biggest Loser. I think it's like 6 or 9 of 100 and whatever people have actually kept off their weight. I mean,
wow.
that's the problem, is it never became a habit, which you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
I suppose for me, I had 4 kids in 5 years,
Wow.
little kids, and I'm running a business, and I'm writing a book, and that first book, and I was eating my wife's homemade bread with peanut butter and jelly with a mocha, and it was like, what are you doing? Like, and so over time, and I was getting doing my graduate work, and because I'd been an athlete, I'd been all state football, whatever, and so I really knew better. And so, little by little,
Yeah.
through that grad work, things were so busy, and I was probably tired and trying to be a good dad and help out when I was there. But yet, in between things, I'm flying out, and um, just the habits turned.
And so you
And
went and sought help
mhm,
to how you talked about that in your how do I
yeah,
do this? What fits you? You talked about not drinking any calories. You went
yep,
to making sure you're not drinking calories. Now I do appreciate that you pulled out and said not eating ice cream was a no go, which I
yeah,
appreciate because that would just be immoral. But
right.
what were
Well,
some of
I
the
mean, or for a time, like sometimes,
sure?
one doctor, a few things that turn me. I'll tell you that one epiphany happened. I went to my parents' 50th anniversary, and of course, and now my dad is 91 and a half. After 90, you start using the half again, right?
Uh huh.
So and mom and dad still run our farm, 1,500-acre farm up in northern Minnesota, and they're fit and healthy as can be, and they go for walks every day, and they do all these things.
Wow.
And I said, I know better, because at their 50th, now they'd be celebrating their like 65th, but back then, they wore their wedding outfits unaltered because they weighed the same as they did on their wedding day.
Wow.
Who can do that? Mom's still 117 pounds or whatever, and dad's 155 pounds or whatever it is. So they're little people. But anyway,
That's
so I
unheard
said,
of today,
I
especially.
know better. And so a few things happen in the midst of that, where a doctor said to me, um, David, you can't outrun a cheeseburger. And
Uh-huh.
and what he meant was, first of all, he said, some of you former athletes, you think you can just start working out again. You're 85% what you eat, 15% your workouts, maybe even only 10. He said, you want to drive a Ferrari or a junker? We put different performance or fuel into a Ferrari. And I had to think about this, that I can't just work it off. Like, I had to put different input in. And so I was on a, then I made a big commitment to my team. I said, if I'm not at my high school weight by May 1st, I'll give you $2,500. I did it publicly, at a time when I didn't have much money. And, and I said, and so I had to figure it out. And so I did ask all kinds of different people for help about things. What could I do? And the good news was, even though I actually basically did even cut ice cream out for a time, this doctor said, you'll be able to go back to this many calories a day to stay even, but to lose weight, you have to go down to this. And right now, you have to be focused on losing if you're going to
Yeah.
be, keeping that commitment. So it did take a time of major discipline, and then it took a time of, what habits can I keep to stay here.
So let me ask then, literally, what did you do nutrition and exercise wise during that time to lose that weight? And then what is it today?
Okay, so I basically had a piece of paper in my back pocket that said basically what I could eat each day, and I would check it off if I went through it. So, as an example, it was about something like this. I think I have one close by here, because if I ever get off a little bit, I put that back in and I check off. And they have mobile apps for this. Mobile apps are distracting for me. I want to just check, check, check. Okay, so it's like 10 glasses of water. It's 2 or 3 proteins. It's 4 to 5 vegetables a day. It's 2 fruits, and that's it, and maybe 1 carb. And that's what I did to lose. And so if I ever have to self-correct, I kind of go back to that.
Yeah.
And understanding that a carb a day, a carb is one slice of bread. That's all you can have if you're losing. So
Mhm.
then once you go
And
back,
was there exercise then as a part
oh
of
yeah,
that?
yeah, I did. But some people think, oh, you started doing triathlons and all this. That's how you lost your weight. Actually, I lost the weight, some of the weight, and then I felt like doing triathlons,
Yeah.
So actually, I didn't have a lot of exercise happening. I will tell you one idea that I had starting out, and this came from a different executive fitness coach who is at 70 years old, incredibly buff, he and his wife, and I learned something from them. But basically, he said the best exercise in the world, he believes, is cross country skiing, and that's something easy to do in Minnesota. But he has a take on that, which is on the treadmill, which is just walking with weights. You
Mm.
look kind of silly, but he said he's a swim coach. I think he's led more, I think like 53 national championships for UCLA, Olympic swim athletes. Many people think swimming is the best exercise. He said the best is basically walking with weights because
Mm.
you get the weight above your chest or whatever,
Yeah.
and it does like 60% more for your heart. So I actually thought I can walk. I like to walk. I don't love to run. I don't love this. I don't love that. But I started just doing this kind of walking routine, and then you do some different things with the weights. It's kind of silly, but that was easy for me to do. So it's like it also is finding what will you do and what can you do long term. Now later I started, a little more weights or doing elliptical or doing the triathlons and doing some of that. But that walking routine was something I could do, especially if I was listening to a podcast or watching a football game.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
today, what's it look like today? Just kind of the same thing, low carb, consistent
Yep.
exercise, don't overdo
Yep.
it.
And now I'll have a piece of pie and ice cream, and I'll have other stuff I can go up. But I like some things I kind of cut for good. So I don't ever. I will drink a calorie once in a while. I haven't had juice. Maybe I allow myself to have juice if we're in Hawaii. Like I want
Yeah.
to try the guava juice, right, or something.
Right.
But I basically, um, no orange juice. He talked about how unhealthy. I grew up thinking orange juice was healthy,
Hmm.
and it's totally not. As you know, it's full of sugar. So I don't. I cut drinking calories out like that. No pot. I almost never have soda with a calorie in it. And some things I kind of changed forever, and some things I still then I could add back. Okay, but ice cream's worth it for me, or but this is worth it. A piece of
Yeah.
pie. But you know what? I never almost eat noodles. I never almost eat a piece of bread because I want to be able to have that thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just evened it out. So, but one big force for me is I try to force myself to eat 4 green vegetables a day. I try to drink 10 glasses of water a day. If I do those things, you talk about kind of atomic habits or habits that
Yeah.
keystone habits. If I do those, then other things happen. Or almost every day I have a bag of celery with, and I eat raw celery in the morning while I'm working, whatever. And if I do that, then okay, cravings aren't there, just other things
Yeah.
aren't there, whatever. So I
Uh,
still, in the evening, I still want to have a bowl of cereal or ice cream. That's the detriment, man.
yeah, I understand that. So, a question I've gotten into the habit of asking, because it's just a curious one, is when you look at the daily habits, you've got your perfect day, your perfect habits, but on the day when it's not perfect, when you're flying out, you got extra stuff, it's overkill, it's an out of balance day. What are some core habits that you are not going to miss no matter what?
Well, I actually, um, I don't know if I would say people would say I'm quite disciplined, but on that question, I would probably say I let it be okay.
Hmm.
I would say if I got to get up at 4 in the morning for that flight or 3 in the morning for that flight, for some reason, I'm not going to be someone that's going to get up an hour earlier to work out to make sure I got my workout in. I'm going to I guess the habit would be I need the sleep and I know it.
Yeah.
So, we talk about in our world, Lisa and I talk about what habits do we need to come back in alignment with? We see people kind of get out there and we talk about seeds, planting and cultivating your seeds,
Uh-huh.
SEEDS. So we check, did I get sleep? Is that, if I get enough sleep? Because, 20 years ago, people were arrogant about, oh, I don't sleep. I only need 3 hours a night. Yeah, I haven't slept for 7 years or whatever. Not true. You need sleep. Your waistline is better. Anger management's better. Need sleep. The first E is, did I exercise? Did I walk? Did I do something? We try to make that happen. The next D is eat right. And we know what that is in our minds, which has a lot to do with making sure I get the vegetables and proteins in and water. But the D is drink water. And the last S is source of strength. For me, that's faith in God, and but the source of strength. Am I aligned on these things? So that's what we'll come back to, but and making sure we're kind of getting those seeds planted and cultivated daily. But I think on a day like that, it is all going wrong. There are things I do, but if it's so busy, which we have days where you do have to put in a 70-hour week, I try not to do that anymore and try to mitigate those risks
Yeah.
and how I set things up. But um, so there's some habits that have come to mind with kids. Like I had a time where I was like, I want to parent my kids. I was flying a lot, and I would every morning there would be a video that I did through the phone for over 2 years at a video, share like a Bible verse and an idea, just an encouragement that they would get at the breakfast table as they were growing
Nice.
up, just as a way of if I'm gone and if I'm supposed to be gone, then here's a way to keep parenting even if I am gone. Um, there's some things, habits around I go into. You were talking about what you're doing this weekend. 28 years straight, I've gotten together with 4 guys on an accountability retreat where every year we go through a series of questions. How are you being a good dad? How are you doing as a husband? How are you being as a leader? It's this accountability time. And it's not this go fun getaway with your friends and party. It is each of us shares through these series of questions
Wow.
for around 3 hours each.
Wow.
So that gets to the habit of, I believe if you're doing leadership alone, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I need to have a habit of community. And so I have 3 mastermind type groups that I'm in. Um, but that's definitely a habit. I mean, gets a big deal. Lisa and I have a habit of getting up in the morning and holding hands and praying together before we go to exercise or do certain things. So that's a habit. We have a habit. I'll tell you a habit right now. Since COVID, okay, once this has now been exactly a year that we've done this. The kids, they couldn't go to public school anymore. They were home in home, and just now a year later they're going to start going back. But basically, we said, what could you got a little more time now? Now their online classes don't start till 9 o'clock or something. Okay, so every single morning since COVID for a year, every morning from 7:30 to we get up at 6, and then from 7:30 to 8 after they've had breakfast, we play a video, and it's often it could be a Zig Ziglar, it could be a Mark Batterson, it could be a Andy Stanley, it could be a whatever, and we talk about it because we want to put good input in the morning, and they might have their own quiet time, different things, but that's been a habit of. I don't think we'll change that when they go back to school earlier. That every morning we're putting this great content in these kids, and that's become a habit. So I don't know. There's lots of things we could
That's
talk about there.
no, it's incredible. I'm gonna take advantage of the fact of who you are in this message of trust that we covered in episode 873, and you've got your 8 pillars. And there are some there. I would expect, knowing of you what I know, that you don't get up in the morning and go, man, okay, I got to have some good habits today to have good character. Otherwise, I'm going to go south. That's one that you're pretty solid on. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to care for people. So that's good. What are the ones though, when you look at that 8 that are more cognizant to you to take affirmative action on? Like today, man, if I want to, with my family, with my team, if I want to have trust at the highest level,
Mhm.
here are some habits that I need to make an effort to do. They're not going to be as natural. Let me say that. They're
Yeah.
not going to come as naturally. So I'm going to
Well,
take a proactive effort into this.
let's go back to one I talked about, and then I might hopefully I'll remember to come back to this. But on the health thing, on the eating thing,
Yeah.
by the way, this is a decade now. That's a battle for me every day.
Mm.
Okay. So that's not ever turned out to be easy. Certain parts of it have, but every year I come back and I actually when I see myself go to about 40 pounds up, so I lost the 52 pounds, but by Christmas, every year, I've gained about 10 back. And so I have to sometimes at least where I have to correct. It's like I have to correct again and get there because I don't ever want to go. I always keep myself below 40 off, and there's just a line there. So I'm in
Yeah.
that healthy range. But there are times when life, I think this whole thing of some people talk about work-life balance, and it's not, it's kind of like you have to have this mission line where you come back to it, but no day is perfect. This whole idea, even, and I know our friends that teach this, but a perfect day, a perfect week, I mean, it's almost like setting yourself up for failure because then you don't have a chance for the spontaneous. I gotta go love that person. I gotta go help. I gotta run to the hospital and be there for that friend. I've got to
Yeah.
do this. Oh, that's gonna, because for some people that are so into a perfect day or a perfect week, they are super inflexible about some of the things that matter most.
Yeah.
And so that that's one thing I've had to learn actually, because as you can imagine, I can be um a little disciplined on certain things, and that's something I'm just saying I've learned. So with habits, um, I almost want to put guiding principles, but not but allow, a lot of people don't have enough rigidity, so they don't keep a habit for a day. But I think some of your listeners, they actually have some pretty good habits, and just also remember, hey, it's okay for you to actually, you've had this thing, this chain you haven't broken, like Seinfeld. That's good to have that. It's good to have that chain of I'm writing every day and I don't want to break the chain. But it's also okay to not feel guilty when you do the higher good, the
Yeah.
the guiding principle thing, and let that go. But you got to have a way of coming back to it, because many people break the chain and they don't have a way to check their weight or check their chain, whatever the
Yeah.
habit is, and come back. And that's I think what we want to do, so we have some peace and freedom and not shame and guilt and all these things that aren't that you and I can have, because we want high trust and we got character. But you know
Yeah.
what? It's okay for you, I think, to not feel shame about that you're made with this sporadic fun. You've got lots of ideas and all this. You need to mitigate that in your company to have, maybe it's a chief of staff or a way of having some clarity and consistency. I have to mitigate it too. But anyway, that would just be my little processing of this, that I'm big on habits. I have a lot of them. But I also I've had times in my life when I felt really guilty when I don't know if I should have. And I've tried to grow up in that.
Hey, I'm walking in that continually, David. Same
Yeah.
thing, realizing that there are some of those things that I held on to so tightly that I became imprisoned to. And so now it's a daily thing of kind of judging how I feel and go, if I'm going to be bitter about that, if I'm holding on to it tight, give myself permission to let it go. And my wife's been good on that. She's kind of gotten onto the 80-20 perspective, even with our diet. We got
Yeah.
kids that are vegan, we've done vegetarian. And this year has been the most flex we've ever done. Now we have guiding principles I am not going to go away from. I'm going to keep my performance at a certain level. I'm going to keep my weight at a certain level, but just allowing ourselves to has been good, because yeah, I'm one of those people as well that I can get so
Yeah.
rigid onto protecting it. We want to figure out what are the perfect habits, do them every day, no matter what. And so I think you're the first person, David, gosh, I have no idea how many people I've done this with, on asking that question of, on that busy day, what are the ones you're not going to let go of? And you said, I might let go of them all.
Yeah.
Because I have gotten to that point, and I had to get to that point of going, if I don't get up and have my devotion time, I'm not going straight to hell.
Yeah.
That's that's good
Exactly.
news, man.
That's good. But see, this is where great, you gotta see the real grace piece and I think especially for those of us that believe in personal development and want to, our body's a temple of the Holy Spirit, and we want to do what's right, and that's like, ooh, habits, 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 and we need that. Some people really need that. They just don't have a habit of any kind.
Right.
But there is this piece of, yep, I think we gotta let go and let grace a little bit and figure out this way of coming
Yeah.
back to it in a healthy way. This is awful what you're talking about, but you made me think of it because we've talked about my wife
Good.
a little
Yeah.
bit and family. Lisa and I, when I started speaking quite a lot, at least 21 years ago, and I had spoken a lot as a part of a different organization before that, or some, to youth and family events, whatever back then. But once I started speaking, before we had the kids, Lisa would fly with me all the time. We'd go together, and I was scared to death. There's 1,000 people out there. I'm young. I mean, I was in my 20s or something when we started, maybe late 20s when I started. I mean, and I remember Lisa saying, I mean, I would get sick to my stomach. I'm on some of these stages and like, oh my goodness. And Lisa said, David, stop. Stop thinking about the research. Stop thinking about, you and all this stuff. Just love them. They can tell when you love them.
Hmm.
And all I would say is we have a habit now on of how we every event. She'll text me. I remember one time in this country, war torn country, the east in another part of the world, and I won't name it, but I'm gonna meet the president, and there's machine guns all around me, and Lisa was actually with me, and we're kind of at the banquet with the president, but there's 3,000 people there or something, and she squeezes my hand. She knows I'm a little bit nervous. Hey, just love them.
Hmm.
I've gone into boardrooms of some of the biggest companies in the world, been scared to death with their trust challenges. And I've gotten a text from Lisa still today. Just love them. They can tell when you love them. And there is a difference that happens. And this would be Zig. I think he would say the same thing today. It's like people can tell when you're there to love them. Not so worried. It's good to have research. It's good to have tips and takeaways. It's good to prepare. And it's good to do all these habits. But what's the overrule? The overrule habit for us is love them.
Hmm.
Because love covers, a whole lot of things. Imperfections of me.
Yeah. It's no, again, great appreciation for you as I craft shows, as I'm writing a book, as I'm doing those things to come back to that because I can get so caught up in the message. Am I communicating it well? And I'm mainly thinking about me in all truth. With always with good intent. I've had to give myself grace with that. I know I'm striving to do well, to do good. I know that I don't have to be so keyed in on that, but man, I can get into that spirit and I'm thinking about me. That's a stout message. Thank you. So let me ask you on just a personal side to wrap this up. What you do, it's again always of an interest to me personally. What you do for play. What is fun for David? What is you call it self care, but what is the thing you
Mm.
do just for your own pure joy?
Well, I love to play basketball. I don't do enough of that these days, and I enjoy that. But it is true that at this time in our life, there's a lot around that revolves around the kids. Over the COVID time, we got into chess, and we love to play chess. We've come back to playing ping pong. I like some of those things of play. We love to, we love to play some games. So there's fun in that. I love to go out with my wife and just talk over a cup of coffee or whatever, go to a little coffee shop or somewhere. I love that. I love being outside. We're fortunate we're on a little hobby farm and some horses and the lake and stuff, and love to be outside. And I think it was Roosevelt that said the outside of a horse is good for the inside of a man. And you're just the heart of a man. You get around a horse, something bigger than you, and
Yeah.
and you're so there's things. I mean, I grew up with animals and stuff, so I love to get around the animals. And just doing fun, good, positive stuff with the kids. I love that.
You mentioned triathlons. Is that something you actively do or have some?
Yeah, I mean, I try to do basically. I kind of sign up for one a summer. Whether or not I would say I love it, I love playing sports probably more. But there is a part of me that's motivated by having some end thing,
Yeah.
and so that's that's been something that I've been definitely into it. But I might think of things I love a little more. I love to play ice hockey. We do that on our pond often too.
Yeah, that's relevant in Minnesota. Man,
Yeah.
thank you, David. Thanks for coming
Yeah.
on again. Thanks for sharing the behind the scenes and sharing from your heart. You've given me some things to ponder on here. It's been inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Kevin.